So if he was flying an uncoordinated flight, all he would have to do is look at his primary flight display to see that the yaw damper wasn't on.
We went through that thoroughly the other day. That's the lack of information we're talking about.
Well, I asked you a question. If he looked at the lights up top, autopilot and yaw damper, he would see that the yaw damper wasn't on, correct?
He could.
And if he looked at his primary flight display, he would see that the autopilot wasn't on, and the autopilot was on, and the yaw damper was off.
He could.
We had this discussion about when you turn the autopilot on, and you talked about how you should be looking out the window, right?
Among other things.
But if he's looking out the window and letting the autopilot fly, if he's flying in an uncoordinated flight, if he looked out the window, wouldn't he see the wind tipped the wrong way?
I guess that would be something you'd have to ask him.
And if he decided to look out the front window, wouldn't he see that the nose was going one way and the plane was going another?
No, you can't see that.
You can't see that?
You cannot.
How about if he looked at all those devices he had, you know, the ball, I guess the spirit, or whatever you call it, wouldn't he be able, if he just looked at those instruments, to be able to tell that he wasn't flying, no crooked, in a coordinated fashion?
I don't think that's what you meant to say.
Can you answer that question, or should I do it over
No,
again?
I can't answer the question. I'm sorry.
Okay. When he was flying an uncoordinated flight, when the yaw damper went off, then all he had to do is look at the instruments he had, and he would know that he wasn't flying coordinated.
There are two instruments in the panel, as I explained yesterday, that tell you the status of the coordination of the airplane. One is on the overhead panel on an auxiliary instrument that's rarely used. The other one's on the primary flight display.
Well, that's not my question. I just want to tell you, if he looked at the instruments, would he be able to tell that he was in uncoordinated flight?
He could, if he looked at the correct instrument.
And isn't it his responsibility to know his instruments and what they mean?
It should understand the instruments in the airplane, yes.
And shouldn't he know, and should have known thoroughly, that he gets two warnings when the yaw damper is off?
I would assume he would know that.
And it was his responsibility to know that.
Back to your previous question.
Was it his responsibility to know his instruments?
I want to amend my previous answer. He does not get a warning. He gets a lack of the light. That's what we were very careful to explain to the jury.
Okay. So he gets two indications that the yaw damper is off. Do you agree with that?
He gets two lights that are out.
And he's supposed to, well, and he gets a flashing yellow light too, doesn't he?
Before it goes out.
It's his responsibility to know what all of that means, right?
He should know what it means, sure.
And it's
if he sees it.
And it's his responsibility to look at the instruments to see what's going on, correct?
Depends on, there are priorities of duties that all pilot has, and that's not his first priority.
Isn't one of his priorities to fly the aircraft in a coordinated fashion?
No.